There we go. So I am so pleased to see everybody here. It's always such a joy. We've had 3 weeks in a row meeting up and coming together in community and celebration and contemplation and meditation. And it's been wonderful. I've been reflecting about the holiday season and my highlights. This year, because it was so different. I did get to spend some time with my own family, and that, of course, is always special. But I gotta say, my highlights was Christmas Day service and January 1st, New Year's Day service that we had. It was so sacred and so special. And I loved coming together with all of you. I hope, and I think most of you were actually on that call, especially the January 1st one. So it was very special indeed. And I love being with our Kenyan community. That's you. That's us. Okay, I am going to share my screen. And I want everyone to join in with our theme song. Bear with me. There we go. Here we go. We are one people, one strong heartbeat, just one spirit shining bright within us all. We are part of one another, born to love each other. When it's all said and done, we are one. Again, we are one people, one strong heartbeat, just one spirit shining bright within us all. We are part of one another, born to love each other. When it's all said and done, we are one. When it's all said and done, we are one. And join me in a spiritual mind treatment. Just go within, take a deep breath, and get centered. Get centered in knowing that there is one God, one power, one presence, one universal love. I call this God, I call it spirit, I call it life itself. It is the life that is permeating, penetrating everything and everyone. I know that there is no spot God is not. I know that God is absolute. I know that God is love, it is joy, it is abundance, it is perfect health, it is sound mind. I know that there is that universal love that connects and joins each of us as God is ever present, all knowing. I know that a connection between all of us is that divine matrix where we are that spiritual community wherever we are on this earth. And we come together in this Zoom that is intact and connected as the power stays true, knowing that our time together is not interrupted. We are always connected, whether on Zoom or not. I know that this is in divine mind, that we are coming together in a community, as a Centers for Spiritual Living Kenya. We are divine in action. I know that as we come together, that love that expresses in this time spreads out and ripples out into the community, into the world. And I know that there is universal peace everywhere. I know that the world is peace. I know that our love and our connection and our expression as our God selves moves and shakes the world into a better place to live in a world that works for everyone. I know that our connection is perfect, is divine, is love. So we start this community service called Froggy Friday, celebrating our time together, being ever so grateful for the message that is delivered by Reverend Pat. I know that there is insight and inspiration as she expresses herself in this moment and shares her wisdom. So, with great love and appreciation, in deep, deep gratitude, knowing that the law is integritous, I release this treatment into the law of mind, knowing it is already done in the mind of God. I release, I let go. I am very grateful for all of this. And together we ground this by saying, and so it is. So lovely to be here. Honestly, Froggy Fridays are a highlight of my month, and I'm so grateful to have you all join us. So I have a reading. If you just want to close your eyes, and we will just take in these words. They're from Ernest Holmes. It's called 365 Days for Richer Living. And this is for the end of August, but it suits today. Divine love moves through me. The mood of the infant mind is one of love. The action of intelligence takes place in loving ways. What God hath wrought has been by means of love. Knowing this, I realize that the love of God uses me as a center of distribution. If I let my mind be the center of God's intelligence, I must also let my heart be the center of its love. Living the life of truth is a warm and joyous experience. I let God's ideas rule my mind, and I let God's love act through my heart. With love in my heart, I forgive and forget all untruth. The true spiritual man is all I know of each person with whom I live, work, and play. All else is unimportant. For God's love in me is interested only in the good, the true, and the perfect. I think rightly, I love greatly. This love flowing out from me is felt and recognized by others. In turn, they love me and judge me according to God's standards. I love to let love express through me. And that's from Ernest Holmes. Isn't that beautiful? And we were just talking about how as practitioners, we get to use them. Myself being a practitioner, we get to use them in a way that is healthy and spiritual and guiding and nurturing. And it's it's in true service to have that opportunity to treat for somebody else, because it is reciprocal. It's not like you're just treating for that person or treating for yourself. It's a fluid motion, and it's a reciprocal emotion. So I want to welcome Reverend Pat Davies. Some of you may recognize her from teaching classes. She's always on our Zoom Froggy Fridays and helping us with technical support, etc., and prayer. And the beautiful thing for us, my connection with Reverend Pat, is that her and I went through ministerial classes together and graduated together. So we've been this support and back and forth, and now we're teaching together. So it's a beautiful circle of reconnection and life. Reverend Pat, in the beginning, was one of Connie's students, Reverend Connie's students. And so that the whole CSL Kenya is a very special connection for Pat. So please welcome Reverend Pat Davies to deliver our Froggy Friday message. Yay!
Hey, thank you, Gwen. Delighted to be here. So grateful to have been asked to speak today. So thankful to have been asked to speak today. And I just want to start off by saying that it's it's kind of funny how I came up with a talk title, There Is Always More. And then of course, when I sit down to write it and pull it together, there is always more. So hopefully, somewhere in my talk, the message of there is always more will come through with what I have to share with you today. So I'm going to begin with saying that most ancient cultures point to a connection between body, mind, and spirit. Today, integrative medicine and health psychology are beginning to recognize that our health is influenced not only by our physical body, but also by our spiritual, mental, and emotional bodies. We have four bodies. Here I thought I had one. Now I discover I have four. So our well-being, like how we experience life, how we move through life, is dependent on all these four bodies, right? Our physical body is affected by our emotions, and our thoughts direct how we feel. Our spiritual body is our connection to the divine intelligence, to God, to the source of all that moves and has its way, has its being through each one of us. And this universal energy trickles down and enters into our mental body. I see this movement kind of like an electrical current of energy. In order for me to fully access the spiritual access of my being or my spiritual body, I have to maintain a daily spiritual practice, sometimes several spiritual practices, depending on how my day goes. The mental body, of course, is our thoughts. It's the domain of our beliefs, our desires, and values. Our beliefs are convictions that we hold as being true, and sometimes, often without any real immediate proof. Many of the values and beliefs that come to my mind, that come up in my thoughts, are things that were formed very early in my life, in my childhood. And most of them are unconscious. And that's one of the wonderful things about this teaching, about this philosophy, is that it gives me the opportunity to search those out, to reveal those, and to bring them up to the surface so that I can have a better understanding. And then they can become conscious thoughts. And then I can use my conscious thinking to work in prayer with directing my life. So as this energy flows from the mental body into the emotional body, sometimes it bumps into what I would call stored baggage, right? The baggage of the past. And often that can create a little bit of turbulence, right? Because this stored baggage comes up from past fears and can cause me to experience, at the very least, some anxiety. Or it can also cause me to experience some anger or resentment. And that's not a good place for me to be. Our emotional body is made up of all of our past, our present, and our future emotional experiences. Our emotional body is the part that houses our emotions such as anger, sadness, fear, love, joy, excitement, resentment, jealousy, and shame. So, whenever we have an experience that generates some of those more what we would call negative experiences, it's often due to our stored baggage, things that have come up from our past, things that we're still carrying with us. And unfortunately, that can have an influence on how we are responding or reacting to any experience that's going on in the present, that's going on in the moment, right? And so this excess baggage, this stored baggage, right, comes into our thoughts through our mental body, and then it generates an emotional stress. And then that has an effect on our physical body. A person, right, that has a lot of overwhelming stress at some point will experience some kind of physical symptoms. And this is because of the mind body connection. And there's plenty of research that shows that negative emotions can harm the body and that happiness is linked to our overall well being. And so that's why it's important for us to develop emotional intelligence and to adopt practices so that we can have a more positive outlook on life, both mentally and emotionally. When our thoughts are more optimistic, our emotional states are more positive, and when our emotional states are balanced, our physical bodies will be healthier. Our physical body is a reflection and a total sum of all the aspects of who we are. It's kind of the barometer that indicates how things are going in all areas of our life, in all areas of those other bodies, the spiritual, the mental, and the emotional. So, exercise and healthy eating are typically what comes to mind when most people think about physical health. Although our exercise of choice isn't the only thing to consider when striving for good physical health. We all know people who have been eating well and are physically fit, but they carry around some excess baggage, some excess mental and emotional stress, and eventually that wears on their health. And while it may not be immediately recognized, it has been scientifically proven that chronic stress takes a tremendous toll on the physical body. And stress occurs when our spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical needs are not being met. We know that stress, for example, triggers the fight flight response, which is that survival mechanism that is hardwired into our DNA. It is how our physiology prepares us to respond to any potential life threatening events or even the thought of a life threatening event. And when this response is triggered, which it often is, it creates wear and tear on our physical bodies. So true health comes when we're able to create harmony between each of these four bodies, when we're able to have these four bodies in balance, right? And I know for me, as I take time to pay attention and to look after all four of my bodies, as I look at all of these aspects of the wholeness of my life is much better. I feel spiritually connected, mentally stimulated, emotionally centered. And when I'm feeling all of those things, I'm happier. I feel more connected. There's more joy in my life. There's more health in my life. There's more fulfillment in my life. I think that sometimes we just get so used to looking at things that the way they appear to be. We look at the effect, right? That we forget, or we have a tendency to forget, that there is always more God available. Holmes knew this, and he wrote about it in the Science of Mind text. And in particular, there's a little quote on page 362 where he said, "All that we are is God, yet God is more than all we are." Sometimes when we kind of seem to be at the end of our wits, right? We kind of seem to be hanging on, right? Something shows up that brings us some kind of relief. That something, I would say, is God. And the thing that gets in the way is our limitation. But luckily, part of the foundational teaching of Science of Mind is to let go and let God. And as human beings, we do have a tendency to do that. If we didn't do that, we might still be riding around on horses and buggies. But at some point, we were able to let go of that idea, and eventually, cars came about, trains came about, boats came about, all of that kind of stuff, right? So as we engage in prayer work, whether we realize it or not, what we're doing is we're looking for more God. When we do spiritual mind treatment, we are already accepting that healing has taken place, even though we can't see it, but we know that the healing is taking form. As I embrace this teaching of Science of Mind, I actually live my life in more trust and more faith that each day is unfolding in absolute perfection. The study of Science of Mind, this wisdom teaching of Science of Mind, has brought me to the awareness that more God is available to me, the more I open up to that possibility. Maybe that's because there's always more. There's more power, more love within me than I know, and there is always more God. There is always more to be revealed, more to be healed, more to know, more to celebrate, more faith, more trust, more love. We have often heard that children are our greatest teachers. And over the last few months, I've had the pleasure and the opportunity to spend probably 3 or 4 days at least a week with my granddaughter, who just turned 3. Her birthday was December the 27th. And so we did something very Canadian. We had a party at our local park where the children went tobogganing. I don't know that many of you have actually been tobogganing, but it's something that we experience here in Canada for sure. You need snow in order to have that experience. And in Canada, we get a lot of snow. But one of the most delightful things that happened is that it was Levi, that's my granddaughter's name. It was her first time going sledding, going tobogganing. And so she went down the first time by herself, and she's 3 years old. So she got onto this little plastic thing and sat in it, and then we let her go down the hill. She giggled. She was so excited. When she got to the bottom, all she could say was, again, more, more. There's always more. And the joy of being around my granddaughter, or being around children in general, is that they are always so excited. They know there is more, and they always want more. More milk, more cookies, more ice cream, more hugs, more attention, more love, and they get it and they give it. And that's what I strive for. So she's a wonderful example for me to see her doing that. It motivates me and encourages me to see more, to do more, to be more. It encourages me to strive for being the best that I can possibly be. It's not about being perfect. It's about being the best that I can possibly be. One of the questions that I ask myself often is, what is the good that I am not seeing in this situation? What is the good that I am not seeing in this situation? I like to think that when I'm actually seeing the good in a situation, I'm actually seeing God. So in that way, it becomes a spiritual practice. It's not complicated. It's not stressful. It's not even something that I really have to remember to do at a certain time of the day or to do in a certain way. It is simply to notice all of the good, because just like God is always present, good is always present. The other day in class, we were reviewing the Declaration of Principles, and there's one that says, "We believe in the eternal goodness, eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of life to all." Now, I have to confess that I hadn't read the declarations for a long time, and it was a great reminder to me of what this teaching is all about and what it means to me. So now I printed them out and I've posted them on my wall so I can see them and read them on a more regular basis. One of the things that has been part of my experience in coming to this teaching of Science of Mind is that I can see far more good in my life than I did prior to coming to this teaching. The more I have embraced this idea of seeing good, the easier it has become when something goes astray or doesn't seem to be working out the way that I want to, or I'm being challenged by a relationship. What I found is that I don't have the same level of fear or stress or anxiety when things don't seem to be going the way that I think they should. Over time, I've been able to embody this philosophy so much that I have faith and I trust that every situation is actually working out for my highest and best good, even if I can't see it. I didn't know anything about Science of Mind when I first met Connie. When I first came to the Center for Spiritual Living in Kamloops, where Connie was the founding minister, but I certainly liked what I heard that very first time. And so I kept going back. And when Connie offered classes, I just said yes. I just started taking whatever class was offered, whatever workshop was offered. I was just there. And over time, what's happened is that those principles of Science of Mind have sunk into every aspect of my life. I know I am a better person today because of my outlook, because of being so grounded and rooted in this way of looking at life, in coming to understand how spirit moves in, through, and as me, how God moves in, through, and as me, how good moves in, through, and as me. It has filtered into all parts of my life, all parts of mind, body, and spirit, or as I was mentioning, my mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual body. That somehow all of this has come together over a period of time, and it's created a sense of balance and harmony and peace. I'm so grateful for this teaching and for my willingness to open up and to look at life in a new way, to look at God in a new way, to look at good in a new way, to experience good and more good. Ernest Holmes put it like this: all good is available to me, not some part of it, but all of it. It is not only available, it is usable. It is ever present and inexhaustible. First, know that God is all there is and that God is available. Then realize that the divine law always responds and that our treatment causes it to respond in a way that removes any negative situation and replaces it with harmony. So today I'd like to put out a challenge for you to look for the good in everything, to look for the good in every situation. We are always at choice for how we see things. So I challenge you to choose to see the good. By looking at good, I've been able to practice what we sometimes call an attitude of gratitude. The practice of looking for good has freed up a lot of my time that used to be full of me being anxious or worried or depressed or just generally discouraged. Now, this time is being used for looking for good and for seeing good and for feeling good. It is a spiritual practice that I can use any time, especially when I notice myself complaining or judging. Perhaps you've been to a party, or maybe there's been two people that went to a party and they went to the same party. And one person spent their time finding fault with the people that were there, complaining about the music, complaining about the food, complaining that their expectations were not met. And the other person spent their time just being with people, trying out new foods, enjoying the new music. They were both in the same environment, but one is finding what is wrong and the other is looking for what is good. When they leave the party, one goes on and on and on and on about what a crappy time they had. It was the worst party that they ever went to. The food was disgusting. And the other one goes on and on and on about all the wonderful people that were there, the fantastic food, the great music. Which one are you? Which one do you want to be? Every day we face many situations, but we can develop spiritually by keeping our attention on what is good. So today I close with these words from Ernest Holmes. And he said, declare 100 times a day, good and more good is mine. There is no limit to the good that is mine. Everywhere I go, I see this good. I feel it. I experience it. It presses itself against me, flows through me, expresses itself in me, and multiplies itself around me. So just remember 100 times a day, good and more good is mine. There is no limit to the good that is mine. And so it is.
Woo. All good, holy, holy. Nice, nice. Yes, I would like to invite you to post that last quote from Ernest Holmes. That was beautiful. We've all talked about what you focus your attention on with intention, that's what's going to show up. So the next time I go to a party, if that ever happens again, if we ever get to go to a party again and socialize, I'm going to keep that in mind. Let's open up. Everybody unmute themselves, and what I got, I'd let you know too. Any comments, any questions, bring it forth. It was a lot to digest there, Reverend Pat. That was rich. I also want to let you know that Reverend Barb could not make it with us. She sends our regrets, and she wanted me to tell you that she misses this opportunity deeply and sends her love for each and every one of you. She just could not be on this call today. Life does happen. So, anybody? Do I pick on Paul or do I pick on Patrick?
Yeah, you pick up on me.
Okay. What would you like to say?
I'd like to say that it is good that you picked on me first.
Oh. Patrick, is it good if I pick on you? Uh,
Let,
okay, go
let,
for it, Paul.
let Paul
that was
speak. Let Paul speak first.
Okay, that's really cooperative and collaborative. Thank you. Okay, Paul, the floor is yours.
I really want to appreciate. Yes, I am saying I want to appreciate the talk by Reverend Pat. That was very good. It's very deep. There are so many positive insights, and I'm also happy to share that I also really find a lot of joy with my grandchildren. It's really nice just seeing them being carefree and not worrying about anything. One thing I also want to mention, and that's what Pat said, much as we are looking for the good, I like that bit that most of the time we don't even get to know what the good is. Much as we are looking for it, we don't even get to know. And what I'm carrying home is that yes, you just trust that it's all good, even when you don't get to know what the good is. Just know the universe is conspiring for your good. Thank you.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Paul.
And I will say that as you begin to look for good, then you will see good and you'll recognize it. It will happen. You won't even necessarily notice that it's happening. So that's why I had that question that I've used for several years now is like, what is the good that is going on in this situation? Especially if I'm in a situation where the person in front of me is behaving in a certain way, and then I'm starting to getting caught up and judging what they're doing, and it's like, oh, here they go again, blah blah blah. So when I notice the thoughts that I'm having, if I can get that question to pop up in my mind, then what I end up listening to or what I end up hearing from that person shifts somehow. Somehow it shifts. I hear something different. I see something different. I feel something different, but it's practice. And do I do it all the time? No, I don't do it all the time. I'm human. I'm also human, right? But it's a wonderful practice and simple and easy like much of this teaching is, but
We want to make
takes
it
work.
complicated.
We want to make it complicated. Yes. Thanks,
Okay,
Paul.
Patrick, your turn.
Okay. Yeah, the message was very, well, I should say eye-opening, or at least reminding us of some of the things that we already knew but might have forgotten, particularly about the children. The children are very good examples
Mm-hmm.
of situations like children will go and play in the rain. And we are worried that when the rain falls on us, we are going to get sick. But they are there playing, and they rarely get sick. Yeah, and maybe
Yes.
that's what was meant by, unless we become like little children,
Yes.
we cannot go to the kingdom. And then I just remembered again something as okay. It's not very easy, or rather, it's not easy usually to see the good in a lot of stuff, particularly when there's a lot of negativities happening. And you really have to think hard. You really have to look hard to see the good in whatever is happening, if whatever is happening is not positive. But then we have to trust and know that God is good, as we are always told. And as I conclude, I just remembered a small parable I read somewhere, where some wise man always talked about positive thinking or looking at the bright side of things. And he always looked at, no matter how horrible the situation was, he always looked at the right side of things or the bright side of things and encouraged his disciples to do the same. And they really challenged him, and they wanted to trap him one day, and they said, today we must trap him. So as they walked, to the next village, they knew there was a rotting and stinking carcass. Some animal had died along the way and it was really stinking. So they decided that they should pass through there and see how the wise man would react, the guru would react. So as they went, when they near the place and were really stinking, after they passed the carcass, he had not commented. But then one of them asked him, I don't know what they call him, a guru or somebody, didn't you feel the stink that was coming from that carcass? He said, yes, I did. But did you notice how white the teeth were? The teeth
There you
of the
go.
carcass was white, sparkling white. And that's what he saw. The stinking didn't bother him. So there you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick. Kareth, what do you have to say?
Hi.
Hi.
Actually, mine is a question.
Sure.
I wanted to ask how to go about seeing the good in every situation. Case in point, my friend's son took his life. He locked himself in his car, switched it on. He was 19, promising. And looking at that situation, it's very discouraging. And I'm trying to look for the good in that, and I can't see it.
And so when there are major events that happen in our lives, often that is the most challenging time to see the good in that situation and to know, right,
Mm-hmm.
that what happened for that young man, right, was actually for his highest and best good. We can't always know exactly what that means because we are limited in our view. We are limited in our
Yeah.
perception. But if we really believe that it is all good and it is all God, that even in very, very sad situations like that there is good that will come of that. It's hard to know what form that may take. In North America,
Mm-hmm.
there is an organization that is called MADD, MADD, and that is Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Because there were mothers who lost people in their family as a result of a drunk driver. And so one of the women used the anger and the pain and the frustration and the fear and everything that she was experiencing, the grief, the hurt, to take all of that, the energy that comes with all of that, and to use it in a positive way, to use it in a way that would help other people so that they may not ever have to experience that, so that they could be available for other people that did experience that, to be able to offer, love and support and compassion to the families that experienced that. I don't know if in Kenya there is any such group for people who have had family members choose to end their lives. If there is such
Mm-hmm.
an organization, to find that out for your friend and to go with your friend to talk to some of those people, because I cannot imagine as a mother, right? I think my biggest fear is that one of my children, right, might pass away, might die before I do. And I don't know how I'm going to manage that. Um, it's definitely a test of our faith when something, horrible happens, right? It's
Can
a
I just
test
jump
of,
in there, Pat?
yep,
Um,
yep.
Several years ago, well, I guess maybe 20 years ago now, my brother committed suicide. My brother died by suicide, and he was my twin brother, and very painful. It was very painful, and what I was searching for was understanding as to why he did it, and I had to let that go. Because that was torturing me. That was hurting me. And what I came to focus on was, where is the silver lining in this? Where is, I think Reverend Connie called it, where's the gold nuggets? And I mean, it took me a long time because I didn't have Science of Mind then either. And so that was not in my belief system where I trusted and had faith into a bigger and higher meaning. The one thing that brought me peace of mind was that I knew he was to become to that idea of suicide that is, I believe, is desperation. Like, you become to a point of such desperation and mental confusion and torment that you decide to take your own life. What I saw as a silver lining at that time was, now he has peace of mind, and that his peace of
Oh,
mind puts him into a better place. And that was my interpretation and what would you call it, refuge? My lifesaver idea that allowed me to heal and reconcile that idea of loss through suicide. So if that helps, and then it's
yes, it
just to be a
does.
love for your friend. It's you will be a loving support, Kareth. You are that person who is loving and nurturing, and you will just be there for her in your presence with the gift of your presence.
And also for yourself, you may want to look
True.
at,
Thank you.
Oh,
you,
you're
you may
welcome.
want to look at in the textbook, in the chapter on immortality, because we
Yeah.
believe that life is eternal.
Okay.
So it's chapter 23 in the textbook. Not so much for your friend to read it because she has a lot of grieving and a lot of processing to go through, but for
emotional.
you, yeah,
Yeah.
it would be, she's too emotional right now, but for yourself, it might help you to find some words, or just to get that that feeling for yourself that life is eternal, that we are immortal.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Yeah.
may provide some comfort for you as you support your friend. Because the
Mm.
best thing that you can do for your friend is just be there for her. Just sit there and just listen to her. Just listen and pray for her.
Okay.
Okay, Kara. Thank you for bringing that up. It is a
Thank
tough one.
you.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. Paul, you asked in the thing, I was wondering, when did you start learning Science of Mind? I was about 12 years ago. What about you, Pat?
I knew somebody was going to ask me that, and I was going to look up to see when I actually met
Just approximate.
Connie. I don't know, a little bit longer than that, I think.
Okay. Well, while you think that, we're going to do the affirmations.
I'll just say I've always been
Can I-
learning it,
can I-
but I just didn't know it.
Okay. Where is my thing?
Can I also say something?
Yes,
Yeah,
James.
James.
Yeah, thank you. I tend to think that as Reverend Pat has given us so powerful, in fact, let me thank you so much. I highly appreciate the kind of teaching that you have given us. And from there, I've also taken a note of one thing that normally makes us not see the good in a situation. And you're someone you have really given that reminder that God being good and God is everywhere, therefore good is everywhere, and therefore in each and every situation. Now, one thing that makes us, because most of our judgments are normally on our fellow human beings, the way we see them react, we keep on giving our own judgment of the way we see them. But this is because of putting a wedge between us and them, seeing them to be different from us, not seeing them as us. But the moment we see them as us, and also together with the understanding that each and everyone, in fact, is at a different level of evolution, then we will actually find it easier not to give judgment the moment we realize that at each and every person's level of evolution is perfect. One is perfect according to his or her own level of evolution. So that one, I think, will really help us not to pass that judgment. Secondly, I have a small story about, which I read somewhere, about everything happens for the good. I read a story where a certain king and his servant, who used a lot to tell he used a lot, so many times to tell his master that everything happens for the good. So at one time they went hunting with the boss. So as they were hunting, they were attacked by a beast. And in the struggle, they struggled and he helped the boss actually free himself from the grasp of the beast. But in the process, the boss or the king lost one of his fingers. So when they came back, he was in terrible pain. And then he asked the servant, now, you want to tell me that, okay, even this one has now, I have lost my finger because of the good? And the boy said, yeah, in fact, it is for good that you have lost your finger. And because he was in so much pain, he was so annoyed and he took the servant to jail. So he nursed his wound, he became well. Another time when the servant was in jail, he went now hunting alone. And in the process, he was caught by an enemy community. Now it happened that, okay, this group were people who used to offer human beings for sacrifice for their gods. So they wanted to sacrifice him. So on the process, the day of sacrifice came and everybody gathered, there were songs, and they were now preparing to sacrifice him. Now the elders went to scrutinize whether he was a perfect sacrifice for the gods. And on scrutinizing him very meticulously, they realized that, okay, he did not have one finger. And because of that, they thought that, okay, this is not fit for sacrifice, he's not worthy because he's deformed. So as a result, he was released.
I knew you were going there.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
So when
Thanks,
he gave-
everybody, for your comments and input. It's always a joy to have that conversation, and we're going to move along. We're a little bit over our hour, sort of, but we're going to, where's my screen share? There. We're going to quickly do, we want to be respectful of everybody's time, so I'm going to move us into our affirmations. And together we say, today I give great thanks.
Today I give great thanks.
Today I give great thanks.
I know there is more love within me.
I know there is more love
there's more love within me.
I know there is always more God.
I know
there's always more God.
So happy. Thank you for being here. This is always a joy and a pleasure. Remember, Reverend Barb sends her love, and we'll have her back on January 22nd. That's our next Froggy Friday. I want to give a big shout out to Reverend Pat for all her wisdom, and thank you for being here and sharing that. And see you in class. See you in 2 weeks. See you whenever we are to meet again. I love you. I honor you. Namaste.
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 Bye.
Bye.
Namaste.
Bye.
Bye.
Night.